Imagine sitting down for the interview of a lifetime with the most famous news anchor in Japan, and 30 seconds later, your body is swelling up, floating in the air, and exploding in front of millions of live viewers. That's exactly how this insane story kicks off, and it only gets crazier from there. Our story's heroine is Keiko, the most famous news anchor and journalist in all of Japan. She has a live interview with a university professor that many people have been waiting years for. Keiko arrives right on time, rushing to go on air while everyone watches. A strange gas in the area tries to enter through the professor's leg, so he lifts one leg and rests it on the other, completely casually, and keeps explaining things to the anchor. The gas starts swirling around him and waits for the professor to drink from his cup, then slips in with the drink. All at once, his whole body starts convulsing, swelling up, and floating in the air. Everyone is terrified, unable to understand what's happening, while the gas keeps pouring into his body and he keeps growing bigger and bigger, until, boom, everyone is in total shock, and the whole country watches what happened without understanding what's going on. At the same time, our hero is sitting in a restaurant and sees his friend humiliating the Indian worker who works for him, with the restaurant owner refusing to pay the man his wages. Our hero decides not to pay his own bill either, just to teach the owner some manners. The owner gets angry and comes to hit him, not realizing he's a police officer, who spins around him and pins him to the table. At the same time, the police chief calls him, saying they need him for a case. He says, "But you suspended me." The chief replies, "No, what happened has to come back to you. No one else can solve it but you." He goes to the crime scene, where his colleague fills him in, and he asks the name of the anchor who was there. His colleague says, "You know her well, Keiko." The second he hears her name, he's visibly shaken, and he asks to meet her. He walks up to her, not knowing what to say. She asks when and how he came back to work. He tells her the case is huge, with many investigators on it, and he's one of them. He asks her about the professor, whether there were any corruption cases against him. She says no, he was just an ordinary university professor like anyone else, and she's still in shock over what happened. Her assistant comes to call her to a meeting with the head of anchors. Our hero, King, stands there watching her leave, his eyes full of sorrow. His colleague says, "See how times change. She became head of the journalists while you got suspended." Our hero is clearly hurt hearing this, and it's obvious there's a lot of history and a big secret between them that we're about to uncover. We cut to Keiko, sitting in the meeting. They tell her a suspicious box has turned up, possibly left by the killer. Everyone's too scared to open it, but she goes ahead anyway. It's empty. She checks the lid and finds a symbol on it, and when she scans it, a video plays on screen, a man introducing himself. "I'm the one who killed the university professor, and here's why. I have an old score to settle, and I'm going to finish off a lot more people. If this video isn't published and the public doesn't see it, all you'll get is the news of who died, without any chance to save them. So now, we're going to play a game. Tomorrow I'll be waiting for the press at a restaurant to give an interview explaining every reason behind what I did. I won't do this interview with anyone except the channel that airs my video. I've sent it to every network, and I'll only talk to whichever one puts it on air. Every news channel airs the video, and the police chief calls an emergency meeting. No one can identify the killer or track him down, and they suspect the professor died from some kind of chemical, though nobody knows what it is. The chief says he'll get the governor of Tokyo to go on TV and warn everyone to stay away from the restaurant, since they could be poisoned just by getting close. The meeting wraps up, and the chief pulls our hero aside, since he was close with his late father, and asks how he's doing, whether he's seeing anyone or married yet. "Not yet," he says. The chief tells him he should settle down, since it'll help him focus at work. Our hero asks why he was brought back. The chief says, first, because he's the one person he trusts most, just as skilled as his father was, and second, because Anchor Keiko is tied up in this case, and he knows how stubborn our hero still is when it comes to her. And honestly, it seems like everyone already knows their story, you and me included, dear viewer. Our hero sits there, lost in memory, the first time he ever saw Keiko, years ago, when she was still a young journalist in Kyoto and he was a good-looking young officer. He snaps out of it and sends her a text. She doesn't reply. Japan's governor holds a press conference, urging the public to stay away from the restaurant in question, since the killer is expected to show up there. Nobody listens. Our hero finds the entire public crowded outside, so he and the police move in to keep them calm. Scanning the crowd, only one pair of eyes stands out to him, Keiko's. He walks over and looks into her eyes, remembering a happy day they once spent together, back when she suffered from insomnia and couldn't sleep, and he'd stay up comforting her until he taught her how to finally calm down and drift off, gazing at her with nothing but love in his eyes. He snaps back to reality, realizing time has slipped by and the killer still hasn't shown. King stands there, confused, until the restaurant owner loses his patience, demanding pretending to go check on his food before it spoils. Keiko interviews him, asking how long the restaurant's been there. He says years, but there used to be an original branch before this one, opened by his father, now abandoned. Keiko realizes this is the address the killer meant, sends it to King, and rushes over herself, finding the killer already waiting for her. He sits with her, and she asks what drove him to kill the professor. He tells her, once, there was an organization called the White Center. To the outside world, its members looked like kind, poor, struggling people, mostly scientists, not criminals. But the reality was the exact opposite of the image they projected. The professor was one of them. They did something to me that no one should ever do to another person, so I'm going to shatter their reputation. You and plenty of others may not know who they are, but I asked you to come with me for this interview because they will absolutely see me and recognize themselves, and they'll know what's coming because they know exactly what they did. I won't name them because nothing changes unless they turn themselves in. Before he can say more, the police arrive, so they both stand. I guess the interview's over, he says. Keiko asks his name. I think from now on, you'll know me as the Steam Man. That's because, in an instant, he can transform into steam and blow everything around him apart. He tears into the police officers on scene, throwing them left and right, breaking bones, sending them straight to their graves. Keiko stands there filming as he wrecks the place. Our hero raises his weapon, unsure whether to fire or what to even do. The second the killer's body reappears, he shoots him right in the head, but it doesn't faze him. He turns back to steam and slams into our hero, beating him so badly he can't stand or fight back. He escapes through an opening in the street, leaving his clothes behind. No one knows who he is, and no one even knows who the people he was talking about are. Meanwhile, an old man imagines a little girl standing in front of him, tying her shoelace for her. She tells him, "No, I don't deserve it," and he looks at her face, visibly shaken by what he sees. She walks away, and he runs after her. In reality, he's at the beach. His granddaughter spots him running and chases after him, snapping him out of whatever memory he was trapped in. Later, the grandfather catches the killer's interview on TV and hears him say, "I'm going to kill everyone connected to the White Center." The grandfather is terrified by what he hears. It seems he was one of them too. We cut to our heroine being interrogated, since she was the first person on scene at the killer's location. The investigator asks how she knew where to find him. Our hero walks in and watches her being questioned, drifting back to the last case he worked before he was suspended, a dangerous criminal who, tragically, had kidnapped a girl and, to cover his crime, sealed her fate before she could be found, until it was too late. Afterward, the man hid all the evidence, leaving our hero with nothing to pin on him. The criminal kept taunting him, saying, "You're just like your dead father," which sent our hero over the edge. He tried to attack him, but officers pulled him off. As punishment, our hero was demoted to menial duty, and he sat with Keiko, the woman he loved at the time, pouring out everything that had happened, devastated that he couldn't get justice for the girl who died. Keiko takes him home, puts him to bed, and looks after him. That's when she notices the case files and photos of the criminal he'd told her about. Afterward, our hero decides it's time to propose. He waits for her at a restaurant, ring in hand, and she'd agreed to meet him there. But Keiko never shows up, because at that exact moment, she'd taken the information King had shared with her and gone straight to the criminal, a wealthy businessman, and exposed him publicly, revealing that the police had been investigating him for the tragic kidnapping and killing of a girl, and that he'd refused to hand his phone over to police during questioning, a clear sign he was hiding something. Of course, since he was still just a suspect, none of this should have gone to the press. But Keiko didn't care. She was focused on her career and the scoop she'd landed for herself. Because of what she published, the criminal reportedly took his own life, though the truth suggests other people finished him off instead. Because of the leak, our hero was suspended, blamed for feeding information to the press. And Keiko never looked back. She carried on with her career without a second thought. Our hero snaps out of the memory, still unsure whether he loves her or not. He asks himself how he could have meant so little to her, how she could drop his love in a single second. Something about it doesn't add up, and part of him still wants to forgive her, even if his mind can't make sense of it. Afterward, they continue examining the killer's discarded clothes and find a button shaped like a gang emblem, along with a red handkerchief, the exact same one the professor was wearing during the interview. He realizes the killer may have been signaling who's next, and that this person is definitely tied to the gang. They decide to start watching them, and by chance he runs into the Indian man he'd helped earlier, who's been delivering food to the gang. He asks what he overheard. The man says they were talking about the Steam killer, saying they need to protect themselves. King now knows the gang is involved and decides to keep them under surveillance, thanking the man for his help. "No," the man replies, "I should be thanking you for standing up for me." They embrace. Meanwhile, Keiko ignores the warning to back off and keeps digging into the case. Her colleague manages manages to dig up information on the White Center that it was once a shelter for the homeless, information dating back 27 years, though the center was shut down and all its records vanished. Keiko asks where he found this since there's nothing online. He says an old journalist, the one who originally wrote it, sent it to him. Then call him, let's meet, she says, and they go straight to him. He tells them, 27 years ago, there was an international children's festival in Japan, and at the same time, an explosion hit a remote area, caused by a meteorite. The professor in charge of analyzing, yes, the very same one who died on your show, declared the meteorite free of any harmful material. In reality, the opposite was true. It was packed with toxic, carcinogenic, even lethal substances. They used homeless people from the center to clean it up, and as a result, disaster after disaster struck them. But the professor, Maddie, stayed silent because he was part of the White Center and chose to exploit the meteorite's materials for his own gain. Keiko asks who the man standing beside the professor in the photo is. That's the director, he says, and it turns out to be the grandfather. He tells her, after everything that happened, the explosion, the deaths, the disfigurements, he decided to investigate and publish the story. But because of the children's festival, the government blocked any negative press, and when he tried to track down the director, the man had vanished without a trace. Recently, though, he'd run into him working at a volunteer organization for youth, handing out food to children and the homeless. Great, so where is he? Keiko asks. You'll have to pay me to find out. She refuses to pay and instead digs through what she knows, and the volunteer organizations herself finds a photo of the grandfather and discovers he heads one of them. She gets his number and keeps calling, trying to pry any information about the center out of him. She calls him, but the moment he realizes what she's after, he panics. Keiko here, I want to help you because the killer could come for you at any moment. The grandfather says, wrong number, and hangs up, determined to keep the truth buried. But soon after, he learns that one of the kids under his care, one he thinks of as his own grandchild, has been accused of stealing at school and needs a guardian present. The grandfather shows up and realizes the boy is actually a witness, not a thief. One of his classmates did it. He tells the teacher who the real culprit is, but on the walk home, the boy admits, I lied. The other kid really did steal, but the one I blamed is the weak kid, and the real thief is the scary bully. I decided to throw the weak kid under the bus so the bully would leave me alone. The grandfather tells him to always tell the truth, never be afraid, never hide anything, even if it seems trivial, because in reality, it could save many lives. You get the sense he's really talking to himself, because right after, he pulls out a secret notebook labeled White Center, filled with names of people who were disfigured or went missing, including the killer, whose name we now learn is Rin. The grandfather finally finds the courage to speak the truth he's buried for years. He calls Keiko, arranges to meet her at a restaurant, and she heads there with her colleagues. They run straight into the gang our hero had been watching. Our heroine panics, grabs her colleagues, and tries to run, but the gang catches up and surrounds her, clearly aware she was on her way to meet the grandfather, and decide to kidnap her. But our hero appears just in time. The second he spots her, he transforms and lays waste to them one after another, showing no mercy. He tears through them, smashing them apart. They try to flee with our heroine, but the detective rams her car into theirs and cuts them off. One of them steps out, weapon raised, but our hero's about to give him a very long rest. He beats him relentlessly until he chokes him unconscious. He reaches out and pulls our heroine to safety, reassuring her, then asks what made a gang connected to the killer come after her. She explains she was on her way to meet the grandfather tied to the White Center, and he realizes the grandfather is now in serious danger. She calls to warn him to hide, that his life's in danger. He tells her he's not afraid of dying. He's standing on the road helping someone whose car has broken down. What scares him, he says, is that the truth itself might die with him, so he's going to hand her a list of the missing, along with the names of everyone responsible for the meteorite disaster. I never wanted to work with the center. They forced my hand. They murdered the director before me right in front of my eyes for refusing to cooperate. They treated the homeless and children like slaves, because no one was there to protect them. She asks what exactly they were doing. You'll find out soon enough, but if you forget, just hit like and turn on notifications, because that's the password that unlocks everything. Got it, she says, turning to the camera. Quick, dear viewer, like and subscribe, right now. Perfect. Now that that's done, let me tell you, I was scared, and I worked among them, but the second I got a chance to escape, I took it. I've lived far away ever since, atoning for my sins, staying close to kids who need help. Keiko asks who was in charge of the center. An organization called Move, he tells her. He's about to say more when the man who'd been helping him finishes him off. clearly a psychopath. King arrives at the crime scene and realizes the killer is this same psychopath, working with the gang, and that he's just stolen the grandfather's file. Keiko calls King to ask what happened. It's dangerous. Stay away, he tells her. She sits there trying to figure out how the gang knew she was meeting the grandfather. Her colleague says they must have tapped her phone. Hand it over. Let me check. Sure enough, he finds a spying app installed. She warns him not to click any links. It's not a link, he says. Someone physically installed this. She realizes she never left her phone unattended except during her police interrogation. Meanwhile, our hero reaches the psychopath's car and catches him beating a girl and stealing her phone. He'd contacted the gang leader, been asked to photograph the file and send it over, and had ditched his own phone so he couldn't be traced. But he's careless enough to leave his car sitting in plain sight. Our hero and his team tail him, corner him in an abandoned lot, so he hides, photographs the file, quickly sends it to the leader, then sets it on fire. That's when the general appears behind him, snapping, "Didn't I tell you not to burn it without showing first?" and finishes him off. He checks the man's phone, sees what he did, and flies into a rage. King catches up and asks why he killed him. Self-defense, the general says flatly, but our heroine cuts in. The general is working with the gang, or with the killer himself, because he's the only one who ever had my phone, and he's the one who planted the tracker on it. That's how they knew I was going to meet the grandfather. King doesn't want to believe her. The general's his colleague, someone he trusts, and he asks Keiko to stay out of it, since it's too dangerous for her. But Keiko keeps pushing, tracking the psychopath's movements and confirming he worked for the leader. Her colleagues find it odd that he'd steal a phone right before dying, so Keiko suspects he might have photographed the file and sent it to the leader. She decides to take her colleague and get close enough to bug him. Sure enough, she overhears him talking to the general. "Bring me whatever phone you've got and come now, and if anyone finds out any of those names, you're dead." The leader doesn't even get to finish his sentence before Rin, the legendary steam man, appears on the road, turns to gas, and sweeps through the entire area. Through this, we learn the leader's been running every kind of criminal enterprise imaginable: drug trafficking, organ trafficking from both the living and the dead, exploiting the homeless without a shred of mercy, exactly like he did at the center, plus running an illegal gambling den. There's basically nothing he does that isn't corrupt. And of course, as we already know, nobody can stand against Rin. Whoever crosses him meets their end. He smashes them, hurls them around, morphs into anything to crush whoever's in his path. The leader and his men turn out to be pathetically weak, but they still grab their swords, determined to fight, though what chance do they stand against the lion in his own den? Anyone caught in Rin's path witnesses the worst kind of suffering firsthand. He wipes them all out, and the leader tries to run, knowing full well he can't beat him, but Rin leaps down from the rooftop right onto him, sworn not to let him escape. The leader fights back with his hands and sword, but Rin delivers one devastating blow, boom, sending him flying. This time, though, there's no father to save him, because his father abandons him and flees, with Rin right on his heels, and Keiko trailing behind them both, having been watching and listening the whole time. King spots them, arriving late as usual, having been busy securing a warrant to arrest the leader after learning the psychopath was one of his men. But the second he sees Keiko, he sprints after her, though the leader and Rin are both faster than everyone else. Rin tries to close in on him, circling around, until he corners him in his car and tries to tear it apart. But the car is too heavily armored, and he can't even find a way in. So he abandons the chase and drops into the sewer system. The leader, thrilled to have escaped with his life, starts fantasizing about his future, maybe buying an island to relax on. But boom, Rin bursts out of the sewer from the other side, flips the car over, and finishes off the leader and everyone with him. As always, Keiko is first on the scene. She grabs the leader's phone, finds the video on it, takes it, and disappears. King, arriving late as ever, realizes the emblem that was on the killer's clothes, the one pointing to the gang, meant the leader was next in line. This time, though, they spot a police emblem on the clothing, meaning one of the officers is next. Shortly before the leader's death, we're introduced to a YouTuber who runs a fairly unsuccessful horror channel with his sister, Keiko, who edits his videos but refuses to appear on camera, despite the channel being genuine, because she has no confidence due to a birthmark on her face. The two have struggled ever since losing their mother. One day he tells her, "Our luck is about to change," and shows her a record from an idol group called Dream, priced at $25,000. He takes her along to see it. The record has an ordinary idol group video on it, except for one thing: Rin appears in it. His sister gets excited and urges him to go live, but her brother's terrible at engaging an audience, even claiming he has proof of the steam man's location. Only 7 people tune in, but one viewer takes real interest, messages the siblings asking about the location, and offers $1 million if they can pin it down. The siblings are thrilled, feeling like they've finally caught a break. break and decide to take the risk of visiting the man who made the record. The sister waits outside while her brother goes in. The YouTuber tries every trick to convince the producer that he's a huge fan wanting to film at the same location as the original video, but the producer refuses, saying he hates that place and has never gone back. The video was a disaster anyway. Keiko notices the producer's assistant is actually one of the girls from the idol group in the video and tips off her brother to ask her about it. The girl looks terrified and refuses to talk, only saying, "The actor who was with us knows the location, but I won't tell you who he is." Keiko tracks down the actor's name, and they keep tabs on the idol group until they discover where the whole band hangs out at night. They cook up a plan. He'll send his sister in to get everything they need from him, but she asks why he doesn't just go himself instead of using her. He reassures her, "Don't worry, I'll be watching every second through the phone right there with you. No one's getting near you." Keiko still refuses, since she has zero confidence in herself. Her brother pushes her, insisting it's their only shot at real money. She caves and heads to the club, waiting for the actor, hiding behind sunglasses that cover most of her face. The actor arrives and takes them off her, taken aback by how beautiful she is. She's thrilled. Finally, someone noticed her and complimented her instead of mocking her looks. He invites her for a drink, and despite her brother's warnings, she agrees, gradually drawing him out until he confesses, "The day we filmed that video, everything was normal, until suddenly the idol you met saw a ghost. She pointed right at it, and then it just vanished. We still don't know if she imagined it or not." He tells her the location, and when he snaps back to the present, Keiko has already slipped out and gone back to her brother. She starts getting scared, telling him it's too dangerous. Her brother shocks her by admitting the truth. He's doing all of this for her, to pay for cosmetic surgery to remove the birthmark and give her back her confidence. She's overwhelmed with love, realizing how much he cares, and promises that once she has the surgery, she'll finally appear with him on YouTube. "Exactly," he says. "The channel's finally going to take off. We'll get likes, subscribers, everyone turning on notifications, just like they do over on Kamacho Recap." "Yeah," she says, "patience really does pay off. Go like and subscribe to Kamacho Recap right now, and then come back to us. Let's get to it, dear viewer." So, let's follow them to the location. They find an abandoned house and step inside. Terrified, discover a basement, and head down, walking slowly through the dark until they spot Rin's petrified body in front of them. Suddenly things around them start moving, so they hide and start filming. A song begins to play, and Rin starts crying. Tears roll from his eyes. The stone cracks, and he transforms back into a human. An ordinary man wakes up and speaks to a recording device in the room. "I wish for one thing. Kill the leader, right now." Rin gets dressed and heads out, while the siblings stay hidden, shaking. Once he's gone, they come out and piece together what happened. The music is a trigger, and someone's giving him orders through the recording device. They head outside, and the sister considers calling the police, but her brother refuses. "No, let's talk to the guy offering the million and see what he'll pay for a video like this." Soon after, they see a news report about the leader's death and realize Rin did it. They find him back in his lair again, so they rush in after him, watch him freeze up once more, and set up cameras everywhere, determined to find out who's controlling him. They see someone approaching and hide, expecting it to be Rin's handler through the recording device. The door opens, and it's our heroine, Keiko. Is she the one controlling him, or his next target? That's where part 1 ends. If you want part 2, where we find out who's really pulling the strings, let's hit 100 likes first. See you there.